So, the Apple Vision Pro has changed the world, right? Well, it's certainly changed my bloody YouTube suggestions. Man, this shit's rife at the moment. I've got to say, as a VR enjoyer from time to time, I have found the different takes on this divisive opinion interesting. From Marcus Brownlee to Casey Neistat, which have both made outstanding videos on the Vision Pro, to be honest. But today, I'm going to throw my 2 cents into the mix for, what it's worth. But before I start, I have got a Patreon now. So for exclusive little tidbits and to support a brother, go and subscribe for just $3 a month and see your name show up on every video after. Also, you'll be the first supporter, so stick around for the previous comments from my last video too, which will be at the end of the video. Anyway, on to the video. Also, I just want to make it clear here, I'm not a fanboy of any side. I use a range of different brands in my life, so there are no allegiances here. Apple, Samsung, Windows, I use it all, so you do you. So let's get on to it. We predict the Apple Vision Pro will bomb. A review made by The Futurist or TechCrunch. They went on to say, it's hard to tell you much about the Vision Pro, but I can tell you with near certainty one thing. The product was almost certainly rushed to market before Apple's engineers would have liked. Do I agree with this? Well, I'm not so sure. But what I do want to ensure is that this video doesn't become just another bloody review, as to be honest, I ain't dropping $3 on the thing. I'll leave that to Jerry Riggs. So let's take a look at the current competitors to the Vision Pro. Obviously, it all started with the Sword of Damocles. Wait, not that far back. Obviously, it all started with the Oculus Rift, which was born out of a Kickstarter back in 2012, where it raised $2.4 million. So right from the start, the team over at Lucky were onto something big, and I guess Facebook shared that dream too. Just after 2 years from raising the money from the funding campaign, Facebook bought out the founding company to allow the devs a vast amount of funds to continue their idea in a vastly idealistic environment. So let's fast forward. The competitors of today's market are the Meta Quest 2, 3 and the Pro, but I'd skew towards the 3 now due to the advancements between that and their predecessor. Everything else is marketed towards the gaming market more than productivity, like the HTC Vive Pro 2, PSVR or the Valve Index. So in terms of direct competition, it appears to be a 2-horse race between the Meta and Apple. At this point, with the hype and intrigue that the Vision Pro has caused, I could see other companies push towards the productivity market. Well, maybe all except Valve, I guess. So how different are the Meta Quest 3 and the Vision Pro? Well, pretty different, but so is the price tag. When you look at the side-by-side tech spec, what you find is, well, not a whole lot of difference honestly, with probably the biggest difference being the processors and the microscreens, where there is a clear edge for the Apple Pro. What it boils down to mostly, as is usually the case for Apple, is the software. From other reviewers, one thing that remains consistent is that the headset is silky smooth when in use, where from experience, I've felt the downfalls of the Meta product. Sometimes the Meta Quest can certainly feel clunky and unpolished at times. The Meta Quest series shines when it comes to gaming, which is what most of the market audience is buying these for, but gaming on the Vision Pro is not great due to the latency issues, and obviously there is a severe lack of software to even play these games, except for ported iPad apps. But these do have very little development behind them. Although there are plenty of interesting AR concepts popping up everywhere, so watch this space. The Vision Pro has been described as lacking in usability in terms of current apps and products available currently. But obviously this will change pretty quick, whereas the Meta Quest series have all of that in place right now. So I'm pretty certain that the general public aren't out in floods snapping up a £3,000 headset when the competition is far better value right now. Just to conclude this part, the Apple Vision Pro does have very little in comparison to the Meta Quest 3, but what it does do in the productivity world, it does incredibly well. The pass-through technology looks far greater than anything else that's been achieved too, as displayed by the Casey Neistat video of course. At the price point it's currently sitting at now, it's definitely going to exclude the general population from even being able to purchase this, let alone having a preference. But I really don't think this was a product for the public anyway. Much like previous first gens of Apple product ranges, there are always flaws. Usually they're expensive, have very little extra features, bulky to use, minimal apps, but sometimes they're just genius. The Macintosh, the iPod, the iPhone, the MacBook, and even the AirPods. What do these products have in common? Well, they're all wildly successful for a start, and secondly, they all started from one word, a word so ingrained in Apple's history, it became one man's entire ethos: innovation. All of these pieces of tech transformed the market they were in. The OG iPod was iconic in the times of the Walkman and MP3 players. The MacBook put an edge on the big, bulky laptops we were used to. And the iPhone, well, it's hard to argue against the iPhone being the granddaddy of pretty much every other smartphone after 2007. And that's coming from somebody who's had a Samsung for most of my days. Innovation has definitely seen a drop off since maybe the AirPod. I mean, the iPhone has barely changed for the past 5 to 7 years, honestly. But could the Vision Pro be the next big thing that Apple chooses to launch as a long-lasting series? I'd say that it absolutely has every potential to stay for the long run. It has all the nuggets that the other products shared from the start. It does one thing extremely well, and if they continue to work on it, it will shine through the VR AR market and rival the Meta. So let's take a look at the actual uses for the Apple Vision Pro. So what's good and what's not so good? Well, the good specifically is the productivity uses, the social features, Apple's ecosystem compatibility, and the pass-through tech is top notch. And the bad is definitely gaming, the weight, the available apps, and obviously the biggest is the price. The number one use that is marketed are the productivity aspect. So let's take a look at what that actually looks like in real life. The idea is you don't actually just mirror what is on your MacBook Pro screen, but also it allows you to add multiple extra screens that are usable from your MacBook. So essentially creating a multi-screen setup without using up any of your valuable space in the vicinity. And just to add, by not using the typical controller style setup as rivals do, it frees up your hands to type or use a mouse in between usable hand actions, removing the barrier and creating a flow between using a laptop and using the VR features seamlessly. The privacy of using a laptop that literally only you can see is also very attractive, and Marcus Brownlee points this out by using the anecdote of editing on a plane and being spoken to about the oddity of editing a video of yourself in public. Certainly can seem kind of weird to some, to be honest. Well, that part is now eliminated. I also think having a screen strapped to your face while you work definitely relieves distractions too, which should further boost productivity and relieve procrastination. Although the reviews to say that the digital keyboard isn't exactly the greatest to use, but what digital keyboard is, to be honest. Overall, it's easy to see why productivity is the strong point of the Vision Pro. The social ideas are pretty cool too. So it creates a little virtual you called a persona where you can FaceTime people and it projects your avatar, which seems fairly accurate to your actual self. This is a feature that's never been seen in a VR headset as, say, the Meta Quest, which only allows for voice calls. In terms of apps, the usual offenders are on the Vision Pro in the form of iPad apps that have been ported over. So there's still a little while to go before you see proper optimization. But overall, the apps do seem to work fairly well anyway. Using your phone is also possible with the inclusion of iMessages too, so you can actually respond to texts straight from the headset. Obviously the ecosystem speaks for itself. If you're a frequent Apple enjoyer, then yes, it will sync across to everything. And of course the pass-through, which I've pretty much already covered, and it's been covered to death at this point. Yes, it is good enough to play table tennis, so yeah, there's a lot of goods anyway. The bads, well, unfortunately there are a few of them too. From reviews, the gaming looks not great, especially reactive type games, which are usually rife within the VR community, like Beat Saber and some FPS shooter games like Population 1. Apparently the latency for gaming is subpar, making the response times impossible for gaming, but I've no idea what the reason is for this, as the actual tracking is very good when it comes to the day-to-day stuff. Maybe it's app optimization or something like that. This feels like something that can be fixed fairly easily, considering the power of the M2 chips is what's powering these things. But is the gaming side a big deal? I don't know if the target audience is looking for that, but hey, it would be nice to have, considering how popular iPad games are. They literally made the device what it is today. The weight of the device has also been criticised, especially when using the one lace band head strap, and some saying they could only get through a couple of hours of wear a day until their faces began to ache. But luckily this can be remediated by using a second, less cool and more VR-y head strap which straddles your skull instead, but you just lose a few, street cred points. The app situation does need to be addressed, but I've spoken to hell and back on that by now anyway. Definitely something that just needs time, money and attention thrown at it by the devs. As the market increases, so will the apps. Simple. And yes, let's get down to the price. Yes, it is expensive, but hey, a first generation Apple product is always going to be. Honestly, if they consider creating a second gen or a non-pro version, you will see a drop in price. And to be honest, I think there'll be an announcement of something like that by the end of the year, and it will probably be about $1,000 cheaper. Honestly, the price is only going to come down from the current price at $3,500. I mean, you'd hope. Obviously, there's plenty of other little features like the fact that the tabs actually stay put in the real world even when out of sight, and the control system is used by eye tracking. You know, interesting little differences, but very cool and quite intuitive from what I've heard. Well, let's get to the point of the video anyway. Do you remember that review from the beginning? Well, here's the real one. We predict the iPhone will bomb. TechCrunch, the 1st of June 2007. Yes, an early review of the original iPhone. Talk about reading the room, right? The thing is with new tech is no one really knows what the hell is going on, and Apple's in exactly the same boat. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, will the Vision Pros be the start of a new innovative line of futuristic productivity glasses, or are they a concept that won't break the large scale market and just disappear into obscurity? Well, that's kind of down to you, but let's say for argument's sake that it does take off. What would that look like in say 2 or 5 or even 10 years, which is a bloody long time in tech? Well, there is a super interesting company that's already doing something that I believe could be the future of VR AR world as we know it. For a long time now, we look at VR headsets and they all look the same, right? Bulky head strap, heavy, and it's just a massive unit that sticks out from your face. Well, there is a company that's pulled away from that and has niched down to purely productivity and comfort. This is Spacetop, and what Spacetop does differently is, well, it's pretty evident. They smashed those horrible design flaws and created a nice looking non-bulky pair of glasses, jam-packed with all the tech to create an entirely digital laptop. It's quite a feat of engineering, honestly, but my point is, if Spacetop can create this with what I can only imagine is a shoestring budget in comparison to the giants over at Apple, I don't think it's unrealistic to see a Ray-Ban style VR glasses which are fully loaded with all the VR and AR features we can see today within just 5 years. Just as soon as the microtechnology catches up, I do truly believe if Apple, Meta or any other tech brand can achieve anything close to just pulling out a pair of Ray-Bans and sticking them on my face to access my digital life, it would revolutionize everything. Imagine checking your phone by popping on a pair of glasses, or having no need for 3 computer monitors because you have access to 5 without even taking up any kind of desk space. All of the potential is there. They just need to work out the variables and make a fucking good product. So that's pretty much the whole video about the Apple Vision Pro. But here's a segment that I like to include where I display a few of my comments from my previous videos and just say a big thanks to everyone. And I've got to say, I'm overwhelmed by the support you guys give to me. And I want to say thanks to everyone that likes, comments, views and subscribes. It gives me the motivation to keep creating. So anyway, on to the first comment. And this is my pinned comment from my previous video, the Reddit one. Quacky2 says, rather confidently I must say, mark my words, he will reach 100k in a month. Listen, I love the optimism here, and I may need you as my hype man. But next up we've got Original Coffee Lord, and he says, bro, I saw the end about the 1 mil subs part. How the fuck do you not even have 1k? You deserve way more. Do you know what? I hear you. I'm trying my best out here, and the only goal right now is to hit 1k, so guys, help a brother out. The last one I want to mention is from Booper Bonkerton, which is a great name, and they say, how do you keep going after 10 years? I admire your dedication, and I ask because I want to add that stick to Ivanness to my own life and mentality. To continue after 10 years is obviously hard, but the truth is that I'm pretty fucking lazy, honestly, and sometimes life gets in the way too. Like, I'm nearly 30 and I'm gonna be 30 next year, but I just decided to give it another go, and about a year ago, and I've just stuck to that, and I enjoy making stuff. I think if you've got the passion, it's easy. If you don't, then you're done. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, but also don't forget to check out my newly founded Patreon. I have precisely 0 subs over there, so go and give me money and you'll be listed in my next video. Thanks everyone, bye bye.